Good morning, everybody. This is Richard back at you. We got red in the house. We love red, don't we, Teresa?
We do.
We really do. We got Miss Teresa on the camera this morning, always the best. We got Annie, always hanging out, huh? She goes wherever we go. We don't leave the house, the room. She's following us every time. But hey, we got a 62 Chevy Impala, 409 big block, Muncie 4-speed in the house. Really excited to get on this one here. You see it here. Car's all original. It's going to be an off-frame restoration. I looked at the motor when I went over to Don's, and I drilled over the motor. It's so beautiful. But Don over Panhandle Performance Engines brought me this unit, and he brought me a 400 too, but going behind a big block that we've just about got built. So, but anyway, somebody asked me about my gloves. Which ones do I prefer? I prefer these gloves right here, Glove Works, and I prefer the 8. They don't tear. They got some ripples on the fingers, and they work really good. In chemicals, they last a long time. So Glove Works number 8. If you're rough on them, doing a lot of automotive tug and pull, and they don't cut very easy. So they really hang in there. So anyway, we're gonna go over a few things. Yeah, anything. But on these Muncie 4-speeds, they make a couple different versions of it. They make a big shaft. Coming out the back like a 400 yoke style or a 350 yoke style. If you look at the bushing on a 400 seal, and the bushing that would go back there if it had the big shaft, and then you look at the bushing here for a 350, and a 350 rear seal will fit too. 350 tail housing bushing, 350 rear seal, same bushing. But you can see if you get the other Muncie 4-speed that takes the big bushing and the seal, then it's a big shaft. That's how you can tell them apart. Now, I'm not sure if the big shafts come behind big blocks. I'm assuming they did, and the smaller shafts probably come behind small blocks, or the earlier version, like sort of the 409 that doesn't make a whole lot of power, unless I guess you beef them up. I don't know a lot about the engine. But I wanted to show you that. And also, on the speedometer bullet, this is real critical here. The speedometer bullet that goes inside here does not have a seal in the end of it. So when you put this in there with a new O-ring, oil is going to leak out here no matter how you look at it. The cable is supposed to seal it, and then you'll get some oil going down in the cable, and lots of times it leaks out the cable. Even sometimes I've seen it go up into the dash. So what we do is we go find this one that has a seal in the end of it. They make 2 versions of this right here too. They make a hard seal, which is this one here. It's got a metal outer diameter. And then they make a soft seal. The soft seal will not fit in here because the diameter is too big, the outer diameter. And then the soft seal goes into one with the inner diameter or the outer diameter smaller to fit in there. And plus, it'll take a little wire ring that sets down in there too that holds the seal in. This here's a press fit. I really like these. They work really good. The only thing that I do see with them, they seal so good on the gear that they kind of disform the gear a little bit right there. You see where it runs at. You can stick it there. Kind of pushes on it hard, but it still doesn't leak. This is the original gear out of the tranny. You can see the little groove right there and how this one doesn't have one. Now you do, when you put that in there, that's not in all the way. If you look here, it barely touches the gear. That will drop down another 1/8 of an inch, if not farther, to where the seal will be grabbing right into the end of that right there in the middle. But you can see there, it wasn't doing nothing. Put the original gear in there, see, wasn't even reaching it. So that does, you take I think I use a 3/8. It might have been a 10 even. Let me see if I can whack that. Because I'm going to pull it out anyway, but I wanted to see if I can put it in there a little bit farther. Yeah, this will put it in there. There we go. Tools are warranty for life, right? They're Snap-on and Matco. See how now it touches the gear? Mm-hmm. You can even feel it pop on there. Pop, pop. So we'll pull that back out, put a new seal, new O-ring, put it all back together, some grease, and that'll eliminate the leak out of the speedometer gear right here. But these trannies also have another problem about if you overfill them, they will automatically leak out the front right here. This tranny does not have a front seal. It has a front oil slinger that keeps oil from coming out the front. So when you fill this unit up like this, you don't, when you fill it up, you do not want the oil to be running out like you overfilled it. If you put too much oil in there, leave the plug out, let it drain until it barely comes out the threads. Put the plug in. You do not want to pump it in there to where it's pouring out and then you put the plug in, because you are going to pump oil out this hole right here. These are even bad about leaking around the cluster shaft. So when we pull this apart, we'll be putting, there's no seal here. We always put a good grade silicone around here when we put the shaft in, and plus when we put the unit on the bell housing, we'll put some sealant around this right here when we bolt the tranny to the bell housing. That way we know we do not get a leak out that pin. Like I say, if you overfill it, you're going to get oil coming out of here because there's physically no seal right there. Okay. Actually, we'll show you that real quick, what it looks like. A lot of times there's tabs here that's bent over the bolts where they don't back out on all 4 bolts. That's a different bolt there. That's weird. Still the same bolt, so the thread's not stripped in the case or nothing. Why they put a longer bolt in there, I don't know. You can see here there's no seal stuck down in here like you'd normally see in a standard transmission. There's not even a place for the seal to run. All you've got is threads. Nothing here, seal don't run here or anything. Where if you had a tranny that took a seal, this would be smooth here, be a snap ring right here, and there'd be a seal down in here. Got a little piece of something right there. See that right there? Mm-hmm. That was setting down in the drain right here. You can see the drain. Oil gets in here and it drains really good right here. You could actually maybe open that drain up a little bit, but you just, like I say, you don't want to overfill them. You can see there's the hole I was talking about right there. Mm-hmm. So that piece there. Mm-hmm. And this here, we're just going to polish it up, see if it looks good, see if there's any grooves or any bad spots on this. We can replace these. I think we can still get those. Now you can see this jam nut right here. No seal. It just butts up against right here. And that's all that seals it. And it's not touching or anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into 2 gears. This is your reverse gear right here, and this is your 1-2 gear. This doesn't have anything to lock it from going into 2 gears. You notice that in reverse or here? It will here. You cannot put it into 2 gears in this part right here. In your 1st and 2nd, your 3rd and 4th is here. So you can't shove it in. You got to pull this one back out and then put this one in. So you can't go into 2 gears going forward, but you can put it in reverse and 1st and 2nd there to lock it down. There we go. And I'm going to try to get a punch in here, and I'm going to try to tap this nut loose right here. Did you see it move right there, Teresa? Just a little bit, I think it did. Try to grab it, see if it did. Maybe it did. It could have been my eyeballs. Come on. Well, I must have put my glasses somewhere. Wonder where I lost them at. I leave them in the, must have left them in there. So I had another tool here that I grinded onto. Now if you do notice, the jam nut does come off backwards. If I can get it off. Come on. Normally they'll almost come off by themselves. You don't even have to tap on them hardly. Did it move? No. Still ain't moving. Yeah, I think it moved in. And that shows to be going the right direction if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know if they make a tool to get in here. I've done a bunch of these, but I've never seen a tool to take that off. And that's coming off this direction. I look at the threads. If I go this way, it takes it on. Let's see if I can turn it this way. Look at it here, how it's all messed up right there. Somebody's been in there before. Oh, you can see where they've been hammering on it. So they got it nice and tight. There we go. Like I said, they did that. You can't do that because this nut does seal right here to keep oil from coming out of the hole. So when they took and busted all that up right there, it messes it up. So we're definitely going to have to get a new nut on here. A lot of people think there's seals right here and they'll leak out the front because there's a bad seal, and they take it apart and they're going, wait a second, there's no seal. I say this is one unit you do not want to overfill. If you overfill it and park it on a hill, nose down, it'll pour out right there too.
You're going to be going, okay, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. See how they messed that all up? Mm-hmm. That has to be perfectly flat. Because it's kind of rounded like this a little bit, and it sets in here right on that spot, and it acts like a seal. But once they open that up, that just gives it a big old gap. Look at that. Right there. So that was fun. So we'll take them out of gear. Now I'm going to take the tail. Well, we're going to do this next. We're going to take the reverse shift linkage off here. Take it and put it over here. I actually took a picture of it in my phone just to remember. If you see this little pin right here, that's got to come out. That pin there releases this lever, and you pull it out and it releases it off of the reverse slider. So you got to try to find that pin. See a hole right there. And you're going to find your punch, and sometimes they're bare. Maybe that's not the right punch. What I did with my other one.
You mean like a Bruce Lee bear?
Yeah, I like that gear. I say some of them are bare to get out. Because it is an aluminum pin and an aluminum board. But look at that. Popped it right out. Isn't that precious? Mm-hmm. You want to put that in your place so you don't lose things. Like right there. And then you're going to grab that linkage and you're going to pull on it. Just like that. When you did that, that pulled the linkage out of the reverse idler gear that slides back and forth. And I forgot they did that on me. Put 5/8 bolts on the bottom and 9/16 around on the top. Of course, my 5/8 wasn't in its trough. I think it's over here anyway somewhere. Or I used it anyway. I went the bigger bolts down here on the bottom. Big old stuff.
You said you had everything together.
I thought I did. You can see these 3 on the bottom. And there's the 3 on the top. That big old long one. You need to make sure you put it in the right spot. If you're not, you're going to blow a big old hole out the side there. Okay. I'll go ahead and take the rest of the linkage off. You can kind of see how it's made. It goes over, top, top. Want to look at this, see how this is bent different here too. So I've done a lot of these in my lifetime, let me tell you. Then you do have a seal in your cover. What we're going to do is pull this tail housing off next, and then I'll show you the reverse idler stuff here. Come on. Come on. Like I said, it's supposed to slide right off there. Let me turn it this way, maybe it'll come off that way. Come on. There we go. I told you.
Now lose our little piece right there that we found.
Oh yes, our little
Somewhere, yeah.
jewel. Now you can see here, this is a piece that slides into the lever, and then it comes over here and locks onto your idler gear, or your reverse gear. It's on this little slider piece right here. There you go. And when you put it in reverse, it actually locks it onto your idler gear, like that, this gear. Like that. Now Raymond at Transtar asked me what size pin this was for the reverse idler gear right here. Okay. He wanted to know.
So how do you know?
They make a 1-inch and then they make another size. I'm not for sure offhand. I'd have to look at my phone and see what he sent me. Now you can see here we have a broken speedometer gear. The end off of one. Oops. Oh, here's the other piece. There's a stem to it. Let me give you a little secret, guys. There's a seal in here. Do you see that ball right there? There's a spring below it. And when you push this out and that ball and spring comes out, you're gonna wish you never did it, because to get that ball and spring back in there and put that lever in there, it is a train wreck. It can be done, but get prepared to sit there for a while and play with it. Bless you. Of course, you can see here our tail housing bushing and our rear seal. Like I said, a 350 is the same bushing and seal. 700, 4L60E, anything that takes that type of bushing rear seal. Now we're going to slide this back on. This gear, speedometer gear, has to come off. And it's really hard to get it off. I got one tool that I use to do it. And of course, it's a workhouse. just is it is what it is. Because you don't want to damage that gear getting it off. I'm going to show you how we get it off. I use this tool right here to do all my NV 4500 Dodge diesels. Now them are all pull apart type units. I mean, nothing comes apart on them.
Makes me want to reach out there and help you, but
Yeah, it'll slowly get tighter.
no, I know.
I've had this tool for a long time, and the other tool I'm going to show you I've had for a long time too. But it just takes it to work on standards. Nothing's easy on a standard. A lot of the presses, they're not wide enough in the middle to get things down in the middle to press big gears and stuff like that. So you got to have stuff like this to get in there. Snug it up a little bit. And then you got old Betsy over here. So there's nothing easy about this, but it'll definitely work. Just to get one gear off. But when you do a Dodge diesel, it's the same way. You got to set it up, take it apart, set it up, take it apart. I have to take that washer out of there, I think. And hopefully this will pull this off after I put this on. Probably be a good idea, huh? Isn't that crazy how tight that is? I don't like my new regulator I have because it
It is moving.
Mm-hmm. Look at that.
Wow.
I know, huh?
Just wow. You get to play with all kinds of cool stuff out here, don't you?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't have this stuff. Because you just can't do it. You'd destroy that gear getting it off.
Right? Wow.
There you go. And of course I'll press it back on, but you can't ruin that gear at all. They're really hard to come by. Then pull your reverse gear off. You want to look here. This is what I always go for on these here, pitting, chipping right here where it engages into the idler gear. There's no synchronizer ring to stop this gear from turning to lock in, so it's always capable of grinding, especially if you have a clutch assembly that's got hot spots or something that tries to keep the clutch turning. You're going to get grinds. A lot of times on these you'll put it in first and then go to reverse. That way it stops everything from turning. But that's a common deal with those. And you see here, I still tear the gloves. So, but the number 8 still outlasts anything that I've tried, especially in solvents and stuff. So, gets my hands sweating where I can't get them on. Got your bolts here. You do have a pin right here on the back of this that lines this cover up right here. See that dowel pin in here? There is nothing up here, but this does keep that lined up. You have your shift forks here. This is going to be your first and second. This is your third and fourth. If you see here, the shift forks, they're totally wore out. Right there. See how deep that is right through there? From up here to here?
Yeah.
Well, that's wore out. And come to this side, you can see it more over here, wore out through here. Same way here with the third and fourth fork. When these wear out like that, this has a certain distance it has to push this collar forward and to put it into gear. When that fork starts getting wore out, it doesn't put it all the way into gear. Next thing you know, you start jumping out of gear. So both of these forks will have to be replaced. Crazy, huh? How much stuff's even in a standard. Put this in neutral, then I can turn that around. There you go. These forks will interchange. Bing, bing. So they are identical. You can look in here, your first and second gear slider, your third and fourth gear slider. So you got first, second, third, and fourth. When you lock it into fourth, your power flow goes straight through. Your cluster gear is just cruising along, it's not active. So if you're in first gear, you're going through your first gear, your cluster gear, coming out the front of the cluster, going to your input shaft, going to your motor. So every time you go through a gear except fourth, you're going down through the cluster, coming back up through third gear, going out, or fourth. It's just the same thing until you go to fourth. Fourth, the power flow goes straight through. It's called one-to-one. Oh, my bearing fell out. Darn it. I hate that. I was going to show you my new tool. Or not my new tool.
I didn't even hear it fall out.
I didn't either.
That's funny.
This little tool, other tool I got, it is a really impressive tool. I've had it a long time. And like I say, without having it, I wouldn't even mess with standards because it just makes everything so simple. 90% of the time, this bearing is pressed on this input shaft right here. Will not come off. This tool right here I have, what it does, it comes in, and I don't have the pin. I lost my pin. I was going to have to get a pin. But you see these here and one here? It locks into the groove of that bearing. Let me get a screwdriver and put through there. It'll make it easier to show you. Everybody's got time.
Everybody's got time. Yeah, it's Saturday. Happy Saturday, everybody.
Yeah. I'm going to put that screwdriver there just to hold it together. But what I do is I take and put this on here, tighten this down, like that, and it locks onto the bearing groove. Then I take this and I put this in the end of here. And then I take and put my socket on here. It's the same thing as what I just did a minute ago. But see, that bearing would be in here like this, and you couldn't get it off, can't get it apart, so you're just going to do this. And pull that bearing off there. Just like that. A lifesaver tool. Just something I thought you might want to know how we do this stuff around here to make it easier on the builder, shortens the time, all that type of stuff, because you know when they're pressed on there, how do you get that bearing off there? The input shaft will not come out the front with it on. So okay, we're going to go after this piece here next. Your center bearing back here. By the way, I get my snap ring pliers from Snap-on or Mako. I had a gentleman asking about that. And then of course you have another piece right here. It does have a dowel pin. There you go. Now you can see that bearing there, it's pressed on there. It's not going to come off. But what we're going to do, we're going to turn this and we're going to grab this input shaft and we're going to move it out of the way. I'm going to pull this back a little farther and then we're going to pull this out like that. Okay. Now we do have this gear in here too. And there's a thrust washer right here that goes on the end of here. And then you have another thrust washer. These thrust washers do have tabs on them that lock into the case to keep them from spinning. So you got to make sure you put them in the right direction. This one here does not. Just this one. So you got to make sure you put it in the right direction too. And you can pull your input shaft out. You're going to have bearing, and this bearing right here is in a cage, but they do not stay in a cage. So you have to put the bearing together with grease and then set the bearing down in there, because once I take it apart or knock it out of there, it's going to fall apart. Watch. See? Ding. So the kit that we got coming will have all these bearings in there, but you still want to hang on to them. And then here we have our synchronizer ring here. You want to look down in here where that bearing runs and make sure it's not pitted or tore up. You got to clean all this metal out of there because there's always tons in there. This synchronizer ring, how do you tell if a synchronizer ring is good? Right here is how you tell. You see that gap right here? If that gap starts getting closed up, that's how you'll tell the ring is getting worn. This ring should set out here about like that. That's a good ring. As it wears in here, it starts getting closer and closer to here. Once it bottoms out right here, it does not do any breaking anymore. Now you always want to come in here too, since we're putting new rings in here, or even if you're not putting new rings in here, you want to get that shiny off this gear right here. Or on this race or surface area where the ring's going to be breaking. You can take, I use this stuff here, it works really good. You can just get in here, grab this, and just slowly work it around it. And just clean it up and get the shiny off there. It don't take a whole lot, you just want it off there. I don't use emery cloth because emery cloth isn't aggressive enough. This stuff is here. Works really well. And then you have your cluster shaft here. Now you want to make sure when you put this shaft back in, the pin is going the right direction, because the piece right back here, this piece right here is what keeps it from spinning. See, that's got a groove, a pie taken out of it. So that's set. If you put that in the wrong direction, then it's going to try to push it out the front when you tighten this together, because it has to go right here, and that way it keeps it from spinning.
I couldn't tell if there was something there.
Could you see it?
Yeah.
That little stop right there. Now there is a thrust washer in the front here, and there is a thrust washer in the back here. You can see it. See that thrust washer right there? Mm-hmm. So what I do is when I put this back together, I take some 3M glue and I glue those thrust washers to the case on the front and rear. Let it dry good. Make sure it's centered. That way when you put your cluster back in there, you can just shove the pin through without, because those thrust washers are hard to get in there if you don't glue them to the case. There is several sets of needle bearings in there, like 5,000,000 of them. It's solid. There we go. Got it. Now, it's coming where it's not coming out, so I have to check it and see what's going on. But the overhaul kit we're getting will come with a new shaft right here, because you always want to check where these needle bearings run. And see if it's pitted. There's two sets of rollers here, two sets of rollers here. You have this sleeve in the middle, and then you have these in the middle of the bearings. See all them?
Oh, there's a bunch more.
So you have that in here like this. Okay. Then you have your thrust washer on the end. These thrust washers do have tabs to keep it from turning. And there's two of them, one on each end. You can see they run right here. So the cluster, you want to just clean it up, see what it looks like, see if it's pitting. It looks dirty right now, but I just have to clean it up and wire brush it and see if I can save it. We're always about trying to save money for people, but sometimes it's tough to do. Nasty. Then we have this jewel. You want to look right here on the end of this output shaft where this bearing runs and make sure it's good. Of course, you have another snap ring right here. A lot of these snap rings can be a bear. Yeah, they can be a bear, and then some of them can be easy. Cheap metal back in them days. Some of the ones we got nowadays, it's like, oh my God, you can't even get them apart. Some of this stuff will slide off and some of it will not. There we go. I love it. Got your synchro assembly here. Put it back together that way it doesn't fly apart. Come on, get on there. Like that. Okay. You can see here. Now you notice this has a funny piece here and a thin one here. You want to make sure you put that on the right direction. If you notice, they go away from each other. They don't go with each other. Of course, you have your other synchronizer ring here for third gear. Same way, you want to clean that up really good and get all that shiny off there before you put a new ring on it. And like I say, the gap right here tells you how bad they're wore out. Now you want to look in here where they lock on. Right through here. These tips right here look like the eave of a house. They look like this. And what it does, it locks behind this right here. And that's what that tip is right there. Like a roof of a house, and it locks behind that tip. Well, once you get wear on the edges right here, and you start knocking this off right here, then that's when you start getting it jumping out of gear. Same way here, where it locks onto. Nasty. Same way here. See how you start seeing that wear? Once that gets wore out right here on the edges, on that side of that little roof point, then they'll start jumping out of gear. When you start getting wear on your forks, that doesn't put it into gear all the way, so it makes it even easier to jump off of here because it's only putting it halfway on because your forks wore out. Then you have your third gear here. Now you notice there's no needle bearings under here. There's none of these bearings under here. Like that NV 4500 Dodge I just did, it had caged bearings that went on here, then you put the gear on it and the gear rolled on a bearing. Doesn't do that. These actually run metal to metal. So you want to look in here, you can see where it runs there, and then it's fed oil through here. So you want to look at your shaft, make sure it's really good shape. Polish it up if it's usable. Since this bearing is pressed onto the shaft, all you can do basically is open this snap ring groove up right here in this right here. See that, Teresa? We can open that up and slide that bearing out of there. I didn't say it was going to be easy. This thing's nasty.
Oh, and it stinks terribly bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the bearing come. That's even better. So we got the bearing to slide off the shaft. That makes it even better. But you do take the snap ring loose or press it, pull the bearing out, put a new bearing in there. You do have gaskets on both sides of this, and these gaskets are different. So you got to be careful. Make sure you get the right gaskets on your sides. Always match them up, and I glue them with yellow glue on both sides a little bit. That way they're stuck to there and they don't slide around. Because this is kind of a challenge to put together when you're trying to put it in the housing and stuff without the gaskets sliding around. Of course, you have your first gear here, you have your synchronizer here. Same way, no bearing. Want to make sure it's not wore out. Same way in here. Scotch-Brite this up. Clean that up really good where it's not shiny anymore. That way your new synchronizer ring will grab on. Look at your teeth where the collar locks on. Make sure it's good. Like I say, these 4-speeds, you got to remember, they're always being abused. They've been racing them like crazy. And normally third gear, you'd think second gear would be the worst, but it's normally third gear that gets the beating. Okay. Well, if you notice this collar right here, it's got a collar that's pressed onto this shaft behind this synchronizer assembly in this second gear. Or excuse me, yeah, second gear. So we're going to have to put it in the press this off. There's no snap ring back behind here. So I can put this in a press this gear off. This collar will come off with it and just take this whole assembly off the shaft. Clean it up, check it, and put a new ring in here. Make sure the gear's good. Look at the collar. Like I said, look here. Make sure it's not wore out here. But I already know that right there is pressed on. It's not going to go nowhere without pressing it off. So a lot of work just even on a standard. I mean, a lot of places you have to look at for wear. I mean, it's amazing when it's from a standard to an automatic country. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I love 4-speed though. I mean, back in the day when we were young, we couldn't afford an automatic and we couldn't afford a torque converter. So all of my racing buddies, we all had 4-speed cars. You know, and then here come the, when I got into transmissions, here come the automatics.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so powerful now, I couldn't even imagine shifting a car, you know. But anyway, guys, we want to thank you for watching. We want to thank Miss Teresa for hanging out with us.
We want to talk about
Oh,
our new sign.
We do have a new sign in the house, too. But we're always thanking everybody, Miss Annie.
Exactly.
And we do have somebody that we're really excited to talk about. We got O'Reilly's on board. It's going to help us with the Dirty Bird this year on oil changes and plugs and just about anything I need for the car. They told me they would help me out with. So we're really excited to have O'Reilly's on board. Good guys. I think we had an account with them for 35 years, didn't we, Teresa?
Yeah.
We have known them a long time, everybody there. So they still deliver out to the shop even though we're a few miles out of the city limits. It's really exciting to have that. We got the Dirty Bird tranny sitting here waiting on parts, keeping our fingers crossed. Love our Sonex parts. Always love Sonex, definitely. Got to get our 400 finished. Get some parts coming in on it too. So I want to thank you for watching. Hey, go check out 4D Motorsports. You're going to love that channel. It's a lot of fast cars. Really fun. But don't forget to subscribe, push the notification bell, and it's red in the house. Have a great day.